And welcome back to Politics on the Rocks for episode 8. That was Diamonds and Gasoline by Turnpike Troubadours. I'll tell you what, that song will make you miss someone you never met. I'll tell you what, boy.
That's a good one.
I'm your host, Nick, as always, same every week. To my right, we have Chris.
What's going on?
We got Bookie across the table. Oh, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to say what's up.
Oh, all right. What's up, man?
What's
Is
up,
that what
guys?
you usually do?
It's
All
good
right,
with you. We got Bookie across the table.
How about who about
What's up? And directly across from me, we have Cameron.
Hey, good afternoon. So our special guest for tonight is Old Forester Single Barrel Straight Bourbon Whiskey. So this is I don't know. What do you guys think? It's pretty good.
Well, I think only half of us have tried it. So
Yeah, I'm still sipping on my dinner whiskey.
What are you guys waiting for?
Let me-
I gave it a little
yeah.
sip. I like it so
Yeah,
far.
it's pretty good.
It's 100 proof whiskey, so it's a little stronger
stronger
than some
Yeah.
of the other bottles.
It's not a barrel strength, is it?
No.
Yo,
No,
how bad
it's
would that be
a,
if you just poured that all over the mixer?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
I think barrel strengths are usually between like 55 and 60.
Yeah, we should get one of those because we don't. Yeah.
No, this is pretty good.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, that's good.
It's like
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It's
All right.
strong, but it doesn't have the pepper.
Yeah. Oh, let me get a sip before we move on. Yo, you know what's going to sound nuts? The second it hit my lips, it reminded me of licorice.
That's not too nuts. I think that is
I could-
something people
yeah, I
taste.
can see that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm getting
Anyway.
like a caramel aftertaste kind of thing.
Yeah, that's good. That's really, really nice.
It is nice.
So we want to give a shout out to nobody this week because nobody did anything cool for us. If you guys have suggestions for what you want to see us drink, see us smoke, or hear us talk about, shoot us a message and follow us on Instagram at politics.ontherocks. So today we're going to be covering two topics we have on the agenda. We have Florida after the high-rise condo in Surfside, the Champlain Towers. After they collapsed, there's quite a few people that are looking to revise some of the regulations with high-rise and multifamily buildings, condos specifically. And then we're also going to talk about Nikki Fried calling on the Supreme Court to revisit a 1987 gun law and possibly abolish or repeal or whatever she's looking to do. So with that being said, Book, take us away.
All right. So first, we're going to talk about the committee for the new condo regulations. So it's actually the Florida Bar. It's assembled a collection of experts to conduct a thorough review of the state's condo laws. And they're going to make policy recommendations based on what they see, and then send that over to the state. So I'm assuming the Florida Senate and Congress, and along with Daddy D, they're going to take a look at it and do whatever they want to do with it, I guess. So, what do we think about this?
I don't know. I mean, I think there's definitely some, like, reading through some of the articles, it seems like there's definitely some, shady kind of practices going on where inspection reports that are calling for, engineers are going there and checking out the structure, and they're saying that there's issues, there's corroding reinforcement, which is horrible sign. Like, as soon as moisture touches reinforcement, that member's done. Like, it needs to be replaced because it's just gonna get worse exponentially fast.
Nothing bad.
But,
nothing worse than a bad member.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Rusty member,
So
no good.
So yeah, it seems like there was a couple engineers reports for the Surfside condo that were calling for millions of dollars in repairs, and they were kind of ignored.
Yep.
Because the way things are now is that once a high-rise condo like that is 40 years old, they have to run a full structural and electrical analysis on the building, and they have to inspect all of that stuff.
Yeah, and from everything, not to cut you off, but from everything I was reading, the as the law, like you said, states now, every 40 years they have to have these, these structural analyses ran. But I guess how the law is currently written, it's extremely vague, so there's no hard start or hard end point from when these projects, because a lot of times they're very expensive and they're very lengthy to get these, these engineering analyses done. It's very vague in regard to when that analysis that the project needs to start and when it needs to be completed by. So a lot of these buildings are getting away with going well beyond the 40-year mark because of how long, especially for some of these bigger buildings, how long, these analyses can take. And not just the analysis, but if there needs to be repairs, that's another however many years on top of the, year or two it takes to run these, calculations. So,
and that building that collapsed was exactly 40 years old. Right. And they had just started doing the
analysis. The latest or the earliest I seen anything, was a 2008 report. I don't know if you guys seen something similar stating the same thing that you said earlier, that and this is a big thing. Chris and I have backgrounds in engineering. When it comes to concrete, it does very well in compression, and it does from a analysis and calculation standpoint. You don't even regard the concrete in tension. So when you push something together, that's compression. When you pull something apart, that's tension. If you have anything that's in tension with concrete, you don't even consider the concrete as a structural member. You only consider the reinforcement. So in this case, the rebar and tensioning rods and things like that. So once those tensioning rods start corroding, it's you from a calculation standpoint, you have zero structural integrity left in that whatever section you're looking at in the building. So for being on the water, especially salt water, that's a massive deal. So for them to see that in 2018 and, nothing had been done, and, you look at the building. This is the result of what happens when that kind of thing happens.
But obviously, so I saw those things too.
That's all background too. We're not even talking about regulation, but yeah, go ahead.
But, they for sure don't know what happened, though, right?
Right.
That's still going to be probably a year or two out.
You're correct. They don't have, they haven't completed
they're still in the recovery
their
process.
Failure analysis, right? Yeah. But they're pretty confident it's because of the, corroded and
I guess my only thing before we get into regulation is it's still a anomaly, out of proportion. This has never been seen before.
Yeah,
on this scale at least.
It is. Yeah, it's really odd.
Most of them you see are bridges.
Yeah, where it's
bridges
just
in America
a total failure like that.
Yeah,
yeah. Typically, even when you see something fail, the way things are designed, typically it's not going to be a total failure where it just collapses in on top of itself like that.
Right.
Yeah, you'll have things that yield kind of before they completely.
Right.
Yeah.
So I guess the question I have, especially for you two over there, you think added state regulations are going to be necessary to combat this, if it's even an issue?
I don't know. I mean, I think that there's definitely some, from what I've been reading, there's definitely some evidence of maybe the condo, the company who owns the condos kind of being negligent because they just ignored the reports essentially, and the reports were actually never submitted to the building officials. They were because the engineer's working for the client, so he submits the report to the client.
Yep.
If the client doesn't submit it to the building department, which why would they if it's saying that their building is shit and it's about to fall over?
Right.
Then nobody really knows, and the engineer can't just. I mean, he could, I guess, submit it to the county himself,
but that's not his job.
He's going around the client at that point, and
I would assume he would have no reason to think they wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the 40-year mandated inspection process, so there's no reason to, think it wouldn't make its way to the building department.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those. It's I don't know. It's one of those weird things where like you obviously want buildings to be safe, right? But you look at it and you're like, well, is more regulation good? And I can't think of any circumstance where more regulation is ever a good thing. And on the surface, it might seem like, oh, well, building codes are important. It's like, yeah, that's true, but who's to say that the state needs to be the sole arbiter of what's considered safe, or however you want to look at it. And I think a big problem we're seeing is there's so many backdoor kind of dealings and secret handshakes that a lot of times when something like this happens and it does get exposed that some of the whether it be the owners of the building or the engineers or whoever it was responsible for the negligence, they never really see any consequences. I mean, they might have to pay pay some reparations to these families or whatever it is, some fines to the state. But at the end of the day, I mean, if you own a condo building, a $2, $3, $4 million fine isn't going to put you out of business, right?
Yeah,
not sure.
I mean, I would think. I don't know.
I just feel like there's too much like backdoor kind of rub jobs that no one ever really faces.
Justice.
Consequences for.
Well, I feel like when someone in the private sector screws up and people die, typically someone goes to jail, and then there's a lot more government regulation that comes in on the tail of that. And then when someone in the public sector screws up and people die, there's a lot of more regulation, and that's it. Like, no one goes to jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it results in kind of the same thing as far as regulation goes, but I feel like you see a big difference in the punishment.
Yeah.
So
I think.
go ahead, Cam.
No, I just think, like, if you're gonna start talking about regulation, I feel like in this particular situation, it's just a little too soon, right? Because I know that there's maybe some, like, from an engineering and architect standpoint, there may be like some ideas about like what possibly have happened. But how can you start talking about regulation before you actually know
a definitive
what
answer.
took place? So it's like I think it's a little bit
like if
premature.
the cause was in that engineer's report that I
Right.
think it was done in January, then he did his job. That was like he inspected the building, he
Right.
found what was the problem, and then if that's what caused the collapse, then it's just people
Negligence.
didn't act on it. Like
Exactly.
that's the problem.
Yeah.
And I think
There's no amount of regulation that's going to fix that.
right.
Yeah, and I think a thing that has to be said is when it comes to a condo building, you kind of think of it as a HOA in a sense where everybody's bought in and they have to pay a fee every year, however much it is, and it's up to the condo board of officials, whatever they're called, to actually collect money and save it for repairs.
Right.
So it's not as easy in a sense of like if you own your own house, because you're the one that controls that and you can make that decision. Now you're dealing with, however many people were living in there, hundreds of people, where, if you're asking these people to give you $2,000 a year, and I think it came out they only had like $700,000 in reserve funds to upgrade the building.
That's not
That seems reasonable.
nowhere
So-
near enough to.
But then
do.
you have to think too, is when they get that report, if they're like, "Hey, we got to pay for this. We got to ask the people who live here for more money." More people are like, "We don't want to pay you."
Yeah.
Right. That's just natural human instinct.
Yeah, that's definitely because they're just going to be like, I pay you like this amount of money a year. What are you doing with it? Like, why don't you have any reserve funds for it to fix this stuff?
Yeah, and from their perspective, it's kind of a fair argument, right? That's what you're paying your dues for, for upkeep and groundkeeping, and
It's like a small version of a government, right? They're taxing you. They're asking for money, and then when you need it, we don't have enough.
yeah.
So it was actually pretty
we
interesting.
need more.
I looked into this a little more, and when you have a condo and you have to have your kind of like we actually have an HOA, it's like legal things happen. You have to have like your actual board that gets voted. And a condo, it's the same thing. And the fees that the condo collects, they actually have to give a cut of that to the government. And the state collects this. And they found out, it's not a ton of money, but over the past, what was this? I think 10 years or so, the government's taken out, $65 million from that tax money they've gotten out of $167 million and put that into the general funds of Florida. And what this fund is supposed to do is the money they take from the taxes from the condos are to go towards education for the board members, so they know, like, hey, this is what you're supposed to look for. This is, like, you know, these are the type of tests or, you know, inspection you should be getting every so often, along with reviewing complaints from the actual condo residents. So it was just kind of interesting that, like, there is governments already, like, as we already know, is in play with these things. They have their hands in everything. It was just kind of interesting to see that they take money from the top of what people are paying for their dues. They take a big chunk or a certain amount of chunk for that, and then they're taking money from that pool and putting it into something else. So
yeah, so they're kind of like robbing these people of their funds that they would use for these types of projects.
Yeah, I don't know how much it is, and, you know, maybe it wouldn't make that much difference, but it's still a difference.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's still, at the end of the day, it's still money that the government has no business taking.
Yeah, and then they take it and they don't even use it, all of it, towards what it's supposed to be used for.
And it's like, with a building like this, like, it was 40 years old. You would think that after 40 years, they would have built up some sort of nest egg, you know, planning for the fact that this building was going to need some repairs. And that's where it just comes down to having good managers for these buildings. People who know what the hell they're doing. Because because one of the things I saw that was wrong with this building was there was constantly water in the basement or something like that in the ground floor parking. And, I mean, that could lead to some, like, long-term, like, if that keeps happening over and over a long period of time, that can definitely lead to some structural issues or some
big time, especially the way concrete absorbs, you know, moisture like that.
That and
capillary
also
action will carry it all to the rebar and
that, and also it affects the soils underneath the structure because it's like a suction effect kind of.
Right.
But you know, if you have like a shitty manager who's just, instead of finding the problem and fixing it because it's going to be too expensive, he's just like renting a pump to pump out the water for years. And it's like, well, you could have put that money into something more useful.
More permanent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this, unfortunately, just comes down to, you know, when we talk about a state where there's less state, you know, this would happen, I think, regardless of the government being here or not. It's unfortunate, but it's life, right? I mean, this is going to happen, and without, in my opinion, without government intervention and more regulation, I think we've seen already, condos around the area have already started getting their own inspections.
Right.
They've condemned a couple of them for, you know, added improvements. So, you know, us as humans, if things are fine, things are fine. And then when they're not fine, shit hits the fan.
Right.
So it's just...
Yeah, I don't think, just to kind of snowball off what you were saying, and to bring up, you know, a point Cameron made, you know, previous episodes, people don't do things or don't do things because they're illegal, right? We don't do crack cocaine because, you know, we don't not do crack because it's illegal. We don't do it because it'll fuck your whole life up, right? Same way, these condo buildings, it's not like, you know, I mean, we have all these regulations already and it happened, right? So there's going to be these companies or people or corporations or whatever it is that own these buildings that are scumbags. They just don't give a fuck. They're going to overlook these engineering reports. They're going to overlook these regulations, and they're going to do what they're going to do regardless of the law, right? So I don't know why more regulation and more state power is the answer, because it's going to happen regardless. So what are we doing implementing more laws and more regulations? The good one, you know, the good corporations and people and organizations that own these buildings, they're going to do these things not because it's the law. I mean, that might play some role, right? I mean, you don't want to get fines and things like that, but they don't want their fucking building to collapse and kill hundreds of people, right? I mean,
Right.
It's like a business doesn't want to ruin its business.
Exactly. You know, whether
That's
it's
bad business.
whether it's a moral thing, like, oh, we don't want 200 people, 200 families to die, or it's a money thing, like, oh, we don't want to kill 200 of our customers. They're going to do these things to maintain their buildings, to keep people safe, regardless if, like I said, it's for their lives or for their money. Like, regardless, they're going to do these things, and we don't. Yeah, I just don't think we need the state to step in and hold their hand and make sure that they do it.
Like you said, I don't think the regulation is really necessary, because I think, we've already seen a bunch of the buildings around there have started jump starting their 40-year inspection without even being asked to. They're just 30-year-old buildings, 35-year-old buildings. People they're just like, all right, yeah, let's start those inspections now. So you're already seeing, as a result of this disaster, as terrible as it is, kind of like a silver lining is it's kind of waking up people, building owners in that area and probably around the country in general, to just you should pay attention to these inspection reports, and you should take it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just part of life. It's unfortunate.
People
but
kind of get lax whenever nothing happens for a while,
Agree.
Yeah. It's like with anything,
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that it has to come to something this drastic to remind people, like, hey, your buildings do decay and you do need to look at these things. But at the end of the day, just to, not to repeat myself, but, the government making laws is not gonna, that's not what motivates people to do these things. It might to a certain degree, but I think overall the bigger contributing factor is these people don't want to lose their buildings and the people inside their buildings that are paying their salaries,
Yeah, and I'm sure it's woken some people up who rent/own a condo in these buildings, to not to be, crass or anything, because it's a tragedy, but to have some personal responsibility to go forward, not just write the check every year, but say, hey, what's going on in those meetings? Are we getting reports on, every so often, or what's our damages look like?
And when the HOA does come around and says, hey, we have some serious structural issues and we need, more money, some of these residents need to realize it's a serious problem.
Yeah.
It's not just, the HOA trying to scrounge more pennies out of them.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
No, but,
phone's on silent, boys.
The last thing I just wanted to say was this might turn into a good example of what government likes to do, is they take a tragedy and turn it into a...
Oh, never waste a tragedy.
Yeah, right? Who said that?
Every time.
Someone. Was it George W. Bush?
I'll look it up.
But yeah, so they always take a tragedy and it always opens up them
But
to...
think about the lives we could save.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That reminded me.
We're only going to spy on terrorists.
Never waste a good crisis.
Was that Winston Churchill?
No, Rahm Emanuel.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Oh, nice.
Never
thought,
waste a good crisis.
I don't know why I thought Winston Churchill said
So
something
to
like
just
that.
Oh, wait. Never mind. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
Wait, hold on a second.
No,
Okay, go ahead.
to reiterate what you guys have already said, because the argument is if there were more regulations, then people wouldn't have the ability to be sort of negligent, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're saying
Winston Churchill, I
from
guess, was
the,
the first. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, super
Nailed it.
important. No, just from. Anyways, what was I saying? What was I gonna say? What the hell was I saying?
Damn, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. You like to do that to me.
I do it to everyone, man.
No,
I'm Italian.
so if you had a regulation, then they wouldn't have room to be negligent. But because of what has already happened, you're saying that probably has really spread more of a sort of a shockwave in the community of people who own and or are part of the HOA of these buildings. To really take a deeper look into setting, just not really having much of a part in the HOA and what's actually happening with the building, which I think is probably fair. I mean, I think that's probably this is probably a good wake up call for people. And I don't like Nick already said, there's already regulation. And it still happened, right? And it also, Bookie mentioned, it's sort of an anomaly. This is not like there's buildings falling down all over the place.
Yep.
and also, and I mentioned this already, it's a little premature. We don't really know what happened yet.
Right.
Let's figure out what happened, especially before you start talking about more government, laws and intervention and regulation.
Yeah, maybe we got ourselves a Tower 7
Yeah, but
scenario here.
was there any
Tower 7.
was there any jet fuel in there?
Well,
Jet fuel doesn't melt concrete beams.
What about rebar?
when does concrete melt? Do you know?
I don't know.
It's pretty fucking high. I know that.
Yeah. Probably makes it stronger at first.
Yeah. I seen a couple people, and Chris and I talked about this. A couple people pointed out the strange coincidence, I guess is the best way that I can say it. The coincidence that like 3 days before the Navy had their experimental, they were running structural tests on their ships, or one of their ships. So they were like setting off bombs, I think 100 miles off the coast of Miami.
What was it, like a 40-ton bomb or something?
Yeah,
like that?
they were setting off some big shit. They did a bunch of, they blew up a lot of stuff out there, but I guess, what did it register? A 3 point, what was it?
3.4, I think.
3.4 earthquake on, that was what was felt in Miami. What a lot of people don't understand, a lot of people wanted to, blame the
tests.
Yeah, blame the tests on why the building fell. I did a little digging, and the amount of energy dumped from 3.2, or I'll even be conservative and say a 4 magnitude earthquake. It's really not that much. It's probably close to like I think 4 tons of TNT, which, if you do any amount of research on, destruction and demolition, those kinds of things, it's really not that much. And a 4 magnitude earthquake is the threshold for what a human can actually feel on land. So I don't really think that had anything to do. I mean, I could be wrong, but
yeah,
a 4 magnitude earthquake is very low. How the Richter scale works is it grows exponentially. So that means, if you're familiar with mathematics, to the power. So that's what exponential is. It's that times itself. So it grows very quickly. It goes from nothing to a little bit to a lot. So
like a 5 is way stronger than a 3.
Right. And yeah, so a 4 is really like, it's almost not even an earthquake. Like if we didn't have seismographic monitors and things to measure that, you wouldn't even feel that 3.2 or whatever they said that it was, it generated on land. So I don't think that had anything to do with it. I could be wrong. I was wrong once before when I thought I was wrong, so who knows?
Time. I was definitely looking into that when you mentioned that because, like I said to you, in Florida, it's one of those areas in the U.S. where they don't consider seismic considerations at all for structural engineers.
Right.
It's like, I believe it's Florida, parts of like Texas and the Midwest, just areas that don't experience earthquakes ever. So
yeah. So it could have. I mean, who knows? It could have, but we've had much larger demolition, controlled demolitions of buildings, and I don't think we're going to find that had anything to do with it. Yeah. And even if it did, we still probably wouldn't find out because that's how government works.
Because the Navy did it.
Yeah, the Navy did it.
Good point.
Yeah.
All right. So, what's the saying? Tax is evil, government bad.
Yeah,
something
regulation
like
bad.
Yeah,
pretty much the theme.
So, you guys want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I think the next topic
this will be a good one.
Yeah, this will be a good one because we'll get to like
heated. I think.
Yeah, it'll get heated, and we'll be able to go like into some deep dive into what we feel about gun
branch
rights.
Out.
Yeah.
So this is the
So not.
Go ahead.
I feel like I say this all the time. Not to cut you off. What So what we originally set out to do when we started this podcast was to try and keep it light. We're just 4 dudes getting drunk, smoking cigars, and talking shit. The first couple episodes, we were just kind of getting a feel for it. Where I think we all kind of, we talked about this before. I think episode 6 or 7 or whatever it was, and we're kind of getting to that point where we're a little more comfortable talking into microphones, and so it's getting. I hope you guys see it, and I think us here at the at the table do. It's getting a little more relaxed, and we're starting to be able to kind of branch some of these local topics more into the bigger picture, like more federal topics, and I just wanted to make that point because I think moving forward, I think these topics are going to get a lot more interesting for us, not only for us, but for you guys as the listeners, because.
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to like provide some actual value, not just bring shit up and.
I think it's good that because a lot of people don't really pay attention to local politics that much. So the fact that we do local politics is not only helpful to us because I never really paid attention to local politics until we started this, but it's a good way for us to kind of segue some local politics into bigger stuff and kind of just broaden the scope of maybe how you view things. So
local politics ultimately have a much higher impact on your day-to-day life than
big time.
Federal. So
yeah. Well, and then also just to piggyback on what you're saying there, just to give
he was nodding at me.
A clear sort of articulated examples and so forth of like why we believe the things we believe.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's why everyone appreciates what we're doing.
Yeah, people love us.
I know.
I mean,
it's overwhelming. I can't even I have to wear like a wig and stuff when I go out now.
What kind of wig do you wear?
Hey, whatever you want me to wear.
Oh, you're like one of those. Okay.
Yeah.
Ronald
you're
McDonald
like
wig.
what's her face from Schitt's Creek?
Yeah, Moira.
Moira.
Yeah, I got a whole collection of them. I have to, man. I just recognize too much outside of my house. It's not a good thing. All right, anyway, moving forward. So
Nikki Fried?
Freed these nuts.
Nikki Fried.
Nikki freed these nuts.
So she's the head of agricultural?
Yeah.
Department of...
Yeah, the agricultural department, I believe.
So
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know, the Department of Agriculture is who deals with concealed carry permits in the state of Florida.
That makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's me and Chris talked about it on the ride over here to our awesome, amazing studio.
Yeah.
And we kind of feel like that was a political move of some sort.
Well, just to before you guys do that,
Yeah.
jump
Into it.
Oh, yeah,
you
let's
mentioned
explain the topic.
Yeah, you mentioned the beginning, but her and a couple of her political friends made a lawsuit to go against a law from 1987, which what it does is states that no city or municipality can have a stricter gun law than the state of Florida. So it's something we've talked about before, which is
preemption.
Preemption, correct. So that just states that whatever the state has, you have to follow completely. I think with this gun law, it can be fined. You can be almost kicked out of office after a certain amount of time. And so her and her friends are trying to get rid of that law. They brought to a local court. The court sided with the law. Then they, whatever the term is, resent it to appealed it to a higher court. They sided with her. So now it's going to the Florida Supreme Court.
Is it actually going to the Supreme Court? Because what I read, and this could have been an old argument or old article, but it said that she was calling on the Supreme Court to look into it. Or is it confirmed that it's actually going to the Supreme Court?
I'm not 100% sure how that works, but I do believe because it was repealed,
disputed,
it can go up to the next form.
Okay.
But I think her calling on it is maybe like a gesture and like one of those political movements you do. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think there's kind of a it seems like there's a coordinated effort among Democrats right now because Andrew Cuomo just declared gun violence a state emergency in New York. Mm-hmm. And he had a famous quote. I think he said, "What we did with COVID, we want to do with guns."
That's a real quote?
That's a real quote.
Yeah, that's verbatim.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
I love it because all the memes are like, oh, I guess he's going to send mass shooters into nursing homes and then lie about how many, grandparents were killed.
Oh, man.
Hide your grandparents, folks.
Just remember, that's a guy who possibly wrote a book during the COVID crisis.
No, he just hired some guy.
Yeah, exactly, but still.
Oh, man.
He didn't read a word of it.
I love how everyone forgot about all the scandals surrounding him.
They always do, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of just disappeared, didn't it?
Yep.
You know, I came from New York, and it just blows my mind because every year it seems like there's a major scandal with that guy, and it's just gone within a year. By the time election comes around, it's gone. Wow. And I don't know how or why.
That's what happens when you have the corporate press on your side, man.
That's what happens when you are the mafia.
Yeah, literally.
Sauce monkeys.
Yeah.
We'll edit that part out.
No, but it's funny because I remember about a year and a half ago when, you know, all this started happening. Me and Chris, I think we were shooting or something. I can't remember what we were doing, but we were hanging out and he was saying, and I got to give you props, Chris, because you called it before a lot of people did. Even some of the, you know, the big time, you know, libertarian and anarchist, you know, guys. I remember you telling me, you're like, watch, they're going to use this for everything now. The whole, you know, national
declare emergency thing. Yep.
And
be
sure enough,
climate
they
change,
did it.
gun control.
And that's exactly the order it went in. It went from the coronavirus, then, you know, once things started semi-cooling down, you know, and when I say that, I mean like Texas and Florida, and like, you know, we started seeing results contrary to what the air quotes science was saying.
Right. Shout out to Tom Woods.
Tom Woods, thank you, sir. You're incredible. But no, as soon as everything kind of started slowing down with that, they jumped the ship and they said we need to do almost verbatim what they're saying now with the gun violence. They said we need to do for global warming what we did with coronavirus, and now they're saying the same exact tune, you know, singing the same tune with gun violence.
And I just want to,
terrifying.
yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to be clear too. The reason why they're going after this law, Nikki Fried and her
These
friends, are because they want to have stricter gun laws.
Nuts.
Oh my god.
They want to have stricter gun laws, and I think a couple of the people who are grouped with her are from the area that the Parkland shooting was from. So the way the law stands now, they can't make stricter gun laws because they have to follow the Florida state law.
It's funny because so one of the things Nikki Fried said when she made this call to review the 1987 law was she said that gun violence is an epidemic right now, and then she invoked the Parkland shooting. So it's like apparently it's such an epidemic that you have to invoke an event that happened 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's happening every day.
Yeah.
An epidemic.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what is the law, the 1987 law?
So it basically just says that a county or city can't have a stricter gun regulation than the state level gun regulation.
Okay.
And
then they added, Chris was just about to say this, but in 2011 they added that if a mayor or councilman or whatever it may, well, not councilman, but if any sort of, you know, local county level or city level politician tried to invoke a stronger law than the state, they would be fined and potentially removed from office. And that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's something that I think she attacked first. She attacked that because that happened in 2011. She attacked that first, and now she's pushing to attack the whole, 1987.
I'm not sure if it was her that was there whenever they went against the 2011 law, but it was Democrats.
There's not many laws that I'm for, but laws that say you can't add more laws, I'm kind of into that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
It's just potential to backfire whenever,
It goes the
people
other
who
direction.
don't like gun rights take control of Florida
True.
state, and then they enact gun rights, and then, everyone has to follow them.
True.
So,
Yeah.
Well, how does that work? Does that work backwards where a state can have looser, or a city or, county can have looser laws than the state? Or is it strictly they have to abide by what the state says?
they could, but then you're still in the state, so you, like...
the state Trump,
agents,
right, okay.
state police could still
That's a
enforce
good point.
state laws in the county.
Yeah.
I
And
completely overlooked that.
it's certain laws too. So it's only like certain laws you can be looser, you can like go against the grain for the state, but once they put that preemption into it, you have to follow it.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just kind of like your question you asked, Cam, yeah, it's great that they have that, but kind of, again, what Chris said, it's just, it's one of those things where it's good when the state is doing things you agree with, but then it sucks when the state is doing things you don't agree with. And you kind of want that, your city to have the autonomy to do what it wants, because obviously it's closer knit, it's your actual community,
right?
And hopefully you can control it more.
Yeah, I think that was kind of my only. I don't even want to say I'm siding with her, but I think that was my only kind of critique. I really am trying to word this in a way that makes me not seem like I'm siding with her.
But make her sound.
It wouldn't be though, because you think about it, it's our constitutional right. So that would trump everything.
It's our human right.
Well, correct.
I'd argue
it is, but it's our constitutional right, so it shouldn't even be messed with. In
right,
any
it
sense.
shouldn't even be discussed.
Legally.
There shouldn't be concealed carry permits. That's just the state selling back our rights to us.
Now, did you guys want to touch on what's it called, constitutional carry? Because that's been brought up a couple times now, because that would trump everything, right?
Yeah, Texas just enacted that, I think, this year.
Basically, you have the right as an American citizen to carry a firearm with you. You don't need to apply for a permit. You don't need to take any sort of special training. You have that. If you are an American citizen, you have that right.
Wheels over there.
And you have the legal ability to own a firearm.
Yep.
That's the only stipulation.
You don't have to have,
Now, that's been shot down in Florida, or hasn't been brought up yet?
It hasn't even been brought up.
No.
That's
not brought up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, everybody that, and I personally know a lot of our listeners are Republican, which is cool. I mean, I think.
Or Democrat, you're cool too.
Yeah, well, no, it's cool to believe whatever you believe, even though you're probably wrong. But,
if you don't believe what Nick believes, then you're probably wrong.
Yeah, because what I believe is correct. But no, we have a lot of Republican listeners, and a lot of these guys and girls love Trump, Trump and Desantis. But the fact that Desantis hasn't even murmured anything about constitutional carry should be sign enough that he's just another politician.
What a little bitch.
Yeah, little bitch ass mall.
I've actually seen I've seen shirts just recently that say Trump DeSantis 2024.
Oh yeah, dude.
No, come on.
Let's vote no on 2024.
Yeah.
I don't want to attack any particular stereotype here, but like that, like
Cam's about to say something racist.
No, but like, how much do you think like these like Trumper guys, or
how many of them are actually mentally retarded? Probably 98% of them.
Okay, and then we just lost all the people who listen.
Yeah.
No. But I mean, like, how much of them really like look into like some of the stuff we talk about? You know what I mean? Like, it's more just like Trump's our guy. Like, let's get the flag.
Yeah, it's that tribalism.
Let's put it on the back of the boat, and now we're Trump people, whatever.
I feel like a lot of times when I start digging, it just turns into, well, he's better than Biden. And
Yeah.
it's like, well, no
That's
shit.
always the
he's better than
argument.
That makes me so nauseous.
That's every side's.
It's the
Yeah.
lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, it's still evil, is it not? You're still okay with some
Yeah,
some
or
degree
it's
of
like
evil?
if you vote for a third party, you're really voting for the other guy or whatever. And it's like, oh my god, do you not have any principles on what you believe in?
And then your third party.
And the
has,
answer to that, Cameron, is no. They don't.
And then when your third party has Gary Johnson and what's her face on it, you're like, well, don't even want to vote for them either. So
Yeah, that hurts, right? No, but
Joe Jorgensen.
yeah.
Hey,
What could have been?
let's speak to that for a second.
She played
right?
hockey and drank whiskey. She was cool.
Yeah, and then she made
wasn't.
those. Yeah, and then she wasn't.
And then
Exactly.
and
I
then
won't
she-
go into detail. What?
She failed.
Yeah.
What do you want to get into, Cam?
No, I don't know. Like that idea of like being like principled in your belief system, especially in regards. Well, I mean, I think it's good to be principled in just about everything you believe, but like in regards to like politics, because if not, you can be very flimsy in like the way you believe. And something that makes me think about this is something that Bookie's brought this up. Chris just brought it up, and you guys have been really good about this. Just like when you look at something, you're like, oh, I like that. That sounds good. Let's go for it. But you have to think about the flip side of it. And so you have to be principled in what you believe. Otherwise, you just very simply become sort of just blown away from side to side in the wind kind of idea. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then you very naturally fall into the tribalism, like Nick just mentioned. And next thing you know, you're this guy or that guy without ever actually deciding who you really want to be and what you really believe. You know, so I think there's a good like exhortation to like, hey, like decide what you really believe and like stand for that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the goal of what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to, you know, we at the end of the day, I mean, obviously we would love more people to become more freedom-minded and, you know, kind of prescribe to more some of the ideas that we believe in, because I mean, we believe in these things because we believe that it's the most, you know, the ultimate form of individual liberty and freedom, and I think we can all agree that that's like the ultimate, you know, shining kind of beacon of what, you know, is going to set us free from pretty much any sort of chaos and wrong that the government has ever, you know, done. So it'd be cool for more people to kind of prescribe to what we believe, but at the end of the day, I don't think, you know, we're trying to force what we believe on the people. We're just trying to get you guys to maybe consider not a third option in the sense of like libertarian or anarchism, but just kind of consider a third way of looking at things. It doesn't have to be left or right. It can be like right versus wrong. You know, like it doesn't have to be like, oh, a Democrat wants to do this, so it's got to be wrong, or oh, a Republican's doing this, so it has to be right, or right. You know, vice.
Yeah, I think it's something also, like, you know, all four of us here have very similar, I think, viewpoints on what we'd like to see, and when it comes to the state and how small it should be. But I think we probably also have differing ideas of how small it should be and what specific should be like, and that's weird to think about too. Just because somebody might might be different at some viewpoints of liberty or like where it should be, you know, I think we're all can agree on, I think no matter where we come from or what side of the fence we're on politically.
We have a new sponsor joining us today. Welcome Lazy Fuck. Lazy Fuck is a groundbreaking service to take all of your worries, assignments, and personal responsibilities away from you. Who wants to be a functioning part of society where your actions have possible fault? I know I don't. With Lazy Fuck, a monthly subscription of 25% of your income and a signature to sign away your freedoms is all you need to get started. Lazy Fuck will ensure everything is taken care of. Forget to water the plants? Not your fault. Did you rear end a elderly woman and kill her and her 3-year-old granddaughter? Not your fault. Power turn off due to not paying the bills? Not your fault. No more are the days of personal responsibility as self-improvement. Become a lazy fuck and use code FUCKRESPONSIBILITY for no reduction in the cost, but a complimentary bag of lazy fuck stickers.
And we look at freedom in the sense that, you know, all drugs should be legal. I think that's great. I think that's something we can all kind of get behind and join together. And then some of us may want to be a little more free and kind of continue on the path to freedom in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. And then the ones who want to get off there, that's great. I think we can all agree that's a good thing to have, because I think these are things we can join in together in a sense of a kumbaya. And again, just, you know, I think if you talk to almost anybody you meet, they want more freedom in their life. And I think from messaging from, you know, libertarians and anarchists, probably more from libertarians, that you can kind of get more people to kind of agree with you on certain things, and that's better than no one agreeing with you on anything. I don't know. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think with like the gun rights specifically, there's a lot. I mean, you keep seeing this reoccurring theme where pretty much in every state and federally they'll be like over 70% of Americans want stricter gun laws. And I mean, that's got to be crap, because I mean, I talk to people of all walks of life that feel that gun laws are too strict and that it's important for us to keep our gun rights and things like that. Even a lot of left-wing people that I talk to, especially the far left, we all know that even the communists believe in gun rights. Pretty sure Karl Marx had a famous quote: "Under no pretext should the weapons be seized from the proletariat," or something like that.
Yeah. So something along those lines.
Right. So, I mean, even people that we disagree with vehemently in this country still are pretty on board with gun rights.
Yeah. I think it's important that we kind of clarify, I guess is the best word I can think of, what the Second Amendment is actually about. It's not about self-defense. It's not about hunting. It's not about shooting into the side of a sand berm at targets. Yeah. It's literally about killing politicians and enemies of the state that are trying to oppress you.
Yeah.
That's it. That's literally and a lot of people, especially Republicans, they try and water this down in an attempt to appease the other side. I think, at least, I could be wrong. Stop pandering. Stop with the jokes. Oh, I lost my guns in a boating accident. No, you have your guns for a reason.
Right.
And it's to fucking kill corrupt and tyrannical, whether it be politicians or, whoever it might be. That's literally what the Second Amendment is for. And I feel like the second we stop bullshitting ourselves and we start to realize that, and not only realize that, but unapologetically promote that idea, I think we're just going to keep finding ourselves in this fucking vicious cycle of, 4D chess, we'll give them this and they'll stay off our backs about this. They're not staying off our backs for anything. They're coming for it all.
Yeah, so I pretty much totally agree with you, because I'm not like a gun person.
Yeah, you don't even own a gun.
I don't
right?
even own a gun. But my
just come over when shit hits the fan. Me and Chris have plenty for you guys.
Yeah, my guns are right here. You know what I'm saying?
Oh shit! Oh goddamn!
Okay,
he's actually holding up his fly rod, just so you guys know.
Nikki freed them guns.
No. But
Nikki did not free them.
But I never have. Like, that is the only basis I see for guns.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, hunting and stuff like that. But I don't think about it outside of the Second Amendment.
That is the only thing that separates us from other countries that have fallen into these gnarly, disgusting regimes of oppression and genocide. That is the only reason we have not fallen into that.
Where people are, protesting in the streets over, various government policies. Right now in Cuba, I guess they were protesting because they're literally starving to death.
No, bro, it's about the COVID.
And, and then these
they
people
can't get
are in the
vaccines.
streets protesting, and they're at the mercy of their government, quite literally, because they are unarmed. And so if the government wants to come out in the streets and start shooting them, there's nothing they can do. They have rocks. That's it. So,
but do they get F-15s and nukes?
Yeah.
He just made Biden unintentionally made the strongest argument for privately owned F-15 fighter jets.
Yeah.
In when you start talking about stuff like that, could we really defend ourselves against the actual government? And it's like, it's not only that, but if you have weapons and you have to verse the government and they have to kill you and you know what I'm saying? There's a strong argument about just having weapons and what has to happen. You know what I'm saying? What actually would have to happen versus somebody just busting open your door with a M16 and you just being like, oh, I have nunchucks. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I have to do whatever you say versus no, you have armed militias all over the place, and there's this whole thing where you're just, things like Waco and things like that. But, there's something to be said about that,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and this point I'm about to bring up gets brought up a lot, and it's kind of memeable now, but, look at the Korean War.
Did you say memeable?
memeable.
I didn't know that was a word. Okay.
It is now.
It is
I like it.
now.
It's a
We
good one.
Boogie just invented it.
But
It's
yeah,
unmemeable.
you look at the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Middle East for the past almost 30 years now. Like, we didn't win anything over there.
We lost.
In a point to, like, what we thought we could win, right? I mean, and what do they have?
We did the Bin Ladenites bidding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did it. We did everything that Bin Laden sought out to accomplish by involving us in the Middle East.
Yeah. His
And that's I don't know if I told you I picked up enough already again, so I'm like, you know, a little bit further into that. It's getting really good, but yeah, that we did. That was, and he's on recording saying it over and over, that he wants the U.S. in occupying the Middle East to destabilize our economy and to do his bidding. And that's exactly what we did.
he wanted to do to the U.S. empire
What they
it
did
is,
to the Soviet
what
Russia.
they did
Yeah.
to the Soviet empire, and
Yep.
yeah, so it's the same
War of
exact game
attrition.
plan, and it's working to a T. We're just printing. I mean, look at what we're doing this year. We've printed like 33% of the total money supply in 1 year. Not this year, last year, and it's just a result of all this overextension, and yeah, it could easily lead to disaster. But you know, who knows how long they can keep the charade going?
Yeah, we're getting off topic now, but
We are, yes.
yeah, back to guns.
Guns.
So yeah, and you know, it's always about you know, public safety when it comes to guns and gun regulations. But you know, people tend to forget that there's thousands of federal regulations on firearms already, and it's done nothing for gun violence. Would you
Yeah.
guys agree with that?
I
Statement?
would. I would soft agree.
Soft agree. What would you disagree with?
I would say that the graphs have shown that overall violent crime has gone down quite a bit over the past, I think, was it 50 years? Maybe a little less than that. But I wouldn't say that's because of the laws.
Right.
But, you know, you can see a trajectory down in violent crime.
Mm-hmm.
So things are getting better, but I would argue it's
That's
not.
subjective, though, right? Because
No, yeah.
I mean, in some areas, it's like, you know, skyrocketing.
Yeah, but overall, I mean, I like to look at bigger picture stuff.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say it's because of the federal gun laws and stuff like that.
One article I did read, I think it was in the New York Times, and it was from 1987 when the Florida law went into effect. They were talking about how they believed that it was going to lead to higher skyrocketing violent crime in Florida. And they were talking about how they were like keeping a close eye on the numbers and stuff, and you know, it didn't pan out for them to use as a
Yeah.
I think
Yeah, I guess now that I think about it, I guess I do take back what I said, because you're right. I guess over the last 50 years or so, it has gone down. I guess more so the point I was trying to make is that the numbers get misconstrued, right? So mass shootings, for instance, which account for, you know, for the sake of this argument, a statistical 0. And that's what gets publicized the most, right?
That's true.
Right. So, you know, assault rifle, air quotes, assault rifle, murders, I guess is, you know, murders is what is it, like 0.3% of all gun violence or something ridiculously low?
It's very low, yeah.
And that's like their biggest target.
it's a military weapon.
Yeah, like if it, like, I'm not saying that I want this to happen, but if it really was about saving lives and the public safety,
Yeah.
they'd be going after handguns, because that's
Right. Gang
the
violence.
majority of what homicide with firearms are committed with with a pistol, a
Right.
handheld, you know, handgun. So, you know, this whole facade that it's about safety and saving lives, it's bullshit. It's just they want to go after. I
what
don't
they
know if
perceive as a more
Right,
useful weapon.
yeah, that's where I was going. A more effective weapon. I mean, if you're an armed populace, you don't want to fight the government with handguns. You want to fight
Right.
them with
I think too. You look
Small-
at that
intermediate cartridge rifles
and
AR-15s.
visually, it looks menacing, right?
Well, yeah, it's that too. It's
And so
an
it's
easy
easier
target. Yeah,
for sure. That's what it is. It's like
you can't go after the lever action or
Yeah.
It's a 50 caliber clip, bro.
50 caliber clip with the capability of dispensing. What did that dickhead say?
100 ghost rounds per hour or some shit.
But I found this one website. I wish I could remember the name, but it was like gun violence something, and it gave them that it's all correct information, which I have no reason to.
So like
offhand.
every town for gun safety, is it that one?
No, it's
Oh.
it's like gun violence organization something, and it accumulates all this data, and you can actually go on a map and see for last year all the gun violence or gun deaths. I'm not sure which one it was. I think let's just say gun deaths. It makes it easier. And I think Florida only had 101 gun deaths last year.
Huh.
I don't know if that's correct. I mean, I'm just trying to remember that.
It
offhand.
sounds about right.
But I don't know.
Because I mean, even the number in the entire country for gun violence, if you exclude, suicides and things like that, it's still pretty low.
It's like less than 5,000.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
4,300.
yeah. I'll just look it up while you guys are talking.
But what I wanted to bring up after that fact is, I'll bring it before the anarchists do, being more libertarian minded. If you're looking at the grand scheme of things of, this is our constitutional right. If you want to go a step closer, it's our God-given right to bear arms. In a society where that's our constitutional right and God-given right, and we have to deal with, and again, this is me being crass, 100 deaths because of that. Is that not worth it? I guess a better way to phrase that is, at what certain death range from guns do you do you give up your right for guns, right?
Right.
Is it 200 deaths? Is it 500 deaths? Is it 50 deaths?
Everybody dying. That's the point where I would give up my guns.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So in 2019, number of homicides with the firearm was 10,258.
Oh, we're a little off, but still. I mean, what is that?
Off.
Yeah, but I don't think this is excluding suicides.
Right, yeah.
Murder victims by weapons.
5,000 people suicide themselves?
So,
Were they all listening to Nikki Fried?
Yeah. Seriously, I would commit suicide too if I was listening.
I kind of noticed you have a very utilitarian view on things, which I think a lot of times is correct. When you're looking at big picture stuff, and how many people really. Excuse me, I was that was the longest burp yawn ever. But how many people are really affected by this, and where do you say that's too much or not enough? And especially if you didn't have guns, what would be the effect,
Yeah. For me, it's just a point to where, if you're going to talk about things in the big picture, then you have to look at a big picture. And then when you do that, it has to be crass because you're looking at data at that point. And you can't take in single outliers or personal people or, that's more when you look at communities or if we're talking about Vero Beach or in River County, then you can be a little bit more understandable, get into more touchy-feely stuff. But when it comes down to, I guess, to the brass tacks, for me, it's just, what is, if we're looking at, our Second Amendment right, and it's worth 100 deaths, to me, is that worth it? I would like there to be no deaths, but if that's all we're dealing with, we're not dealing with 10,000 deaths in Florida because you have guns, great. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Well, that and to kind of snowball, I guess, off what you're saying is the National Institute of Justice, the NIJ, they estimate anywhere from 750 to 3.3 million lives are saved a year by defensive firearm use. So
what was that? 750 what?
What? Yeah, what?
It's an extremely broad range.
Okay.
So even if you're using the lower end of that scale, 750,000 lives are saved by defensive gun use.
It outweighs.
Right. I would agree, right? I mean, so what's the alternative? Sure, there's 10,000 people die a year from gun violence. That's horrible. I don't want anyone to die, right? But what's the alternative? Okay, we give up our guns. What about the 750,000 people that are saved every year from defensive gun use? Now you don't have those guns. Does that 750,000 to 3.3 million does that now flip into homicides? Like, is that the new number, 750,000 plus the 10,000?
Yeah.
So, you know, that likes, you know, that very often gets overlooked when people start talking about, you know, guns and safety and people dying and.
Well, I wonder, like, because it seems like most of the gun violence is like sort of gang related. Am I just like throwing it
No,
out
that's
there?
100%.
I feel like
accurate.
that's pretty
Yeah.
much,
And
like,
that is also something that gets overlooked.
yeah. Yes. Very
There's a
often.
mass shooting in Chicago almost every night,
Right.
but because the, you know, air quotes definition of a mass shooting, it's specific that it
not
cannot be
gang-related.
gang related.
Right.
Right. So it's like, okay, so what is it? It's 3, right? 3 or more deaths
Something
in a
like
single
that, yeah.
shooting is considered a mass shooting. Unless it's gang related, then it's not a mass shooting.
Right.
Why
Yeah.
is it not a mass shooting just because it's related to something?
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me.
And when we were talking about statistics just a minute ago, and there's a few websites that compile gun violence statistics, and most of them are anti-gun. And one of them was the one I mentioned, Everytown, and they're pretty active. I think they were started after the shooting in Connecticut, the Newtown shooting, where it was like a elementary school. It was pretty bad. But some of their statistics, I mean, you go to their website and they have a map of the U.S. and it shows, you know, what mass shootings happened in the past year, or I think you can manipulate the map to show however many years you want. But you hover over some of these things and it will show you the details of what happened. And a bunch of them are just ridiculous things. Like one of them was a security officer at a school, like was just standing there, I guess, and some kid like walked up and just like pulled the trigger on his gun somehow.
That's
And-
considered a school shooting.
And
or
it was
something,
like,
right?
considered a school shooting by every
Yeah,
town.
or some guy like
So-
kills himself in his car like 2 miles from the school.
in the parking lot
Yeah,
of
yep.
an elementary school, he
Yep.
shoots himself, and then that's considered a mass shooting.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay,
I'm sorry, I said the NIJ before. It was the CDC.
oh okay,
Yep. The CDC.
A couple different letters.
Yeah. The alphabet boys.
Yeah, I think a question to ask everybody here would be, you know, 'cause I don't own a gun. It's on my list of things to get eventually.
Should be the first.
When I want to spend money. But it's, you know, looking at, because if we're going back to Nikki Fried, dim stuff.
Days nuts.
Yep. You know, she wants to allow it so communities, you know, cities and municipalities can have stricter gun laws. But do you think the gun laws that are already intact are too strict in Florida?
Yes.
I think any gun law is too strict.
Yeah. I don't think there's a single gun law on the books today that is constitutional.
So
Yeah.
I'm assuming you guys have purchased guns legally, all of them. Now, like, what's your typical like process? Because they always bring up like, what is it? Background checks,
Gun show loopholes.
yeah, gun show loopholes, all that stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
the gun show loophole
Doesn't
is
exist.
a myth. I think we've talked about
Yeah, we
that
talked about it a
before.
little
It does
bit.
not exist.
Yeah, I mean, we've been to plenty of gun shows in Florida, which, you know, is a state that's not exactly known for its strict gun laws. And, I mean, like we said before, they're basically sponsored by the local sheriffs half the time. Like, you walk in, you pay your ticket to the sheriff, you know.
Yeah, a lot of the times he's there on like a photo op kind of deal.
Yeah, so it's like, that's a load of crap. And I've heard people say things like, you know, there's no age restrictions at a gun show. Like a 12-year-old can walk in and just buy an AR.
False.
It's like, yeah, you really just don't know what you're talking about, to be quite honest.
For some, that's the dream, though.
Well, and that's something that's also really interesting is it's the people that are the most vocal and the loudest about gun laws know the least amount about gun laws. Like Biden the other day saying that, when the Second Amendment was invented, it had regulations on who could and couldn't own a firearm and what type of fire. It's not true. Anybody can own a firearm, and they can own whatever kind of firearm they wanted, including cannons.
So
and what was the first ever automatic rifle? The
Puckle gun?
the Puckle. Yep.
That was the automatic weapon that existed when the Second Amendment was.
Yeah,
written.
it was a hand crank automatic
Yeah.
Gatling gun. Basically, it had multiple rotating barrels.
But one of the major things that I think is really kind of a hindrance to the way people view the Second Amendment today is that the wording is a little bit confusing for modern English.
Well, yeah, it was written in the 1700s.
Because, so it says, what does it say? So
The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
yeah, so that's the last part, but the first part is, what is
look
it
it
for
up.
militia or whatever, well-regulated militia. Mm-hmm. So,
Oh yeah, I love this one. This
yes.
is, yeah.
So people will say, well regulated. Obviously, you hear that in modern parlance, you think it means laws, right? There has to be regulations, laws. Well, in the way people that used that phrase in the 1700s, it didn't mean laws. It meant in working order, a functional militia. That's what that meant. And so what they were saying was that in order for the militia to be functional, to be in working order, they have to have arms, comparable arms to what the government has.
Right.
Otherwise, they're useless, right? Mm-hmm. If they don't have F-15s and nukes, then how the hell are they going to take on the government? That's the point. That's what it means, a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of the people. It's not, a militia that's hindered by laws being necessary for the.
It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't.
Context.
You just think about it.
Yeah.
Just think
Well,
about
you
it for
got to
5
think about
seconds.
what they just went through when they wrote. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? The amendments. They didn't just get back from hunting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Think about the context of when this was written and why it was written. It was not written for.
So one of the arguments is like, well, they didn't have machine guns.
Yes,
right?
they did.
Right. Well,
Right.
But I mean, yeah. Regardless if they did or not, that's
Right.
a huge argument.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's like, but that has nothing to do with the context. The context is, can you defend yourself against the government?
Yeah,
Yes.
and the government didn't have nukes then either.
Exactly.
So.
So,
Yeah.
that is that.
It's
falls,
the weakest argument.
Yeah, it really is pretty.
It
weak.
is. It
Because
makes
it's
no
like
sense.
it's like when do you read without the context of what they're trying to say?
Yeah.
It's very obviously
Yep.
that it's so you can defend yourself against the government.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
But obviously, the public school system is not going to teach you that, right?
Yeah. Hey, my public school will.
Nick's,
I guess it wouldn't be public; it'd be private.
Nick's private primary school.
Yeah.
So-
Sign up today.
Yeah. So I know I brought up earlier
Whiskey in every classroom.
but for the teachers, obviously.
Yeah. Yep.
But
And students.
obviously, I brought it up a little earlier, but maybe expand on it a little bit more, just in case anybody who's listening doesn't know, especially me, because I don't know. What is constitutional carry? It's been talked about a lot, at least among some states.
Yeah.
I think the point is that, they're interpreting so as I was just kind of alluding to is that the Second Amendment is being misinterpreted, and it seems like it's kind of a purposeful thing, but the point is that it's being misinterpreted, and the constitutional carry is a way of kind of like instilling the fact that the Constitution already gave us the right to carry firearms. There's no, you don't need a permit, you don't need, the government's permission to carry a self-defense weapon. This is your right as a human to carry a weapon for self-defense. And so I think that's kind of the point of constitutional carry, is that they're going back to what in their view, and also my view, the intended effect of the Second Amendment was, which is that citizens have the right to protect themselves, but as we said, it's not about self-defense, it's about
Shooting
it's
tyrants in the face.
It's about the people being able to ensure that our Constitution is upheld. And so there's a system in place, very last resort system, that people can arm themselves and, come out in arms against the government. Obviously, this is something the government doesn't want, but it's the reality that there's really only one way to stop them from enacting these tyrannical laws and these tyrannical edicts against people's rights to carry arms, and that's by carrying arms against them. And let's hope it never comes to that, but that's the intent.
Yeah.
So,
Well said.
yeah, definitely. Thank you, Chris. So if I interpreted that correctly, so now in constitutional carry states, you can go up to a gun store and just purchase a gun.
Well, it has nothing to do with purchasing guns.
Yeah.
It has only involves carrying guns.
Okay, just for carry.
And it's
that makes sense.
I believe it's specific to concealed carry, which is kind of the standard in the U.S. now. Open carry is kind of frowned upon. Even, a lot of gun advocates will say that you should have a right to open carry. I agree.
It's like putting a target on your back.
Right. I agree. You should
Yeah.
have a right to open carry. It's kind of stupid. You're drawing attention to yourself in more ways than one. You're drawing attention to yourself from law enforcement because they don't know whether you're there to, shoot up the place or if you're just there buying a gallon of milk and you want an AR-15 on your back.
Just being a cowboy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just being a
cowboy,
cowboy
son.
out there buying some whole milk.
Goddamn yeehaw cowboy, son.
Look at that cowboy there.
Where'd you come in on your horse?
So that's one way you're putting a target on your back, but also if shit does go down in the grocery
You're the first
store,
target.
you're the first person that an active shooter is going to be like, oh, I should probably kill that guy because he's carrying a gun, So, I think concealed carry is definitely the smarter way to go, but and I think constitutional carry is geared towards concealed carry.
Yeah.
And the fact that you shouldn't need a permit to do it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So is there any talk about, because obviously some states have gone into the constitutional carry, has there been talk about them taking a step more and counteracting the background checks or anything like that?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't think there's a lot of, some of the gun rights organizations are pushing back against background checks in a way because it is, as the Second Amendments are written, there's to be no infringement, right? And infringement, you look at the definition of that word, it means any hindrance, like any block or any roadblock to owning guns. So background checks are a roadblock to owning guns, right?
Yeah. I mean, I would assume, and this is just me just thinking out loud, that if, say, there was no law demanding background checks, that if a private seller wanted to do background checks, that's perfectly fine, understandable. They don't want to sell a gun that could be linked back to them killing kids.
Right. Yeah, and that's something that even under a system where it's, totally free and you could just walk in, slap, whatever the amount of money is that you need to buy this gun on the table and you walk out with it without any background check. Even in a system like that, I kind of lost my train of thought there, actually.
Would you think that people would still want background checks? Like if
privately?
Right. Yeah.
That's what I was getting at, is that even private sellers would want to protect themselves and not sell weapons to someone that could possibly, go out and kill people. They have a history of violent crime or something like that.
Right.
If I was a private seller and someone came in that had a felony on their record, maybe I would think twice about selling to them just because that could come back to me.
Are you saying it's okay to discriminate against them, Chris?
Right, exactly. I think
See,
discrimination is okay.
That already exists. So in Florida, you can legally buy and sell a firearm to a private individual without any sort of transfer or, when I say transfer, that includes the background check. When you go to a gun store and you do the background check, the gun store transfers it's not really a license, but they transfer ownership of that firearm to you. So when I say transfer, that's what I'm talking about. But it's perfectly legal in the state of Florida to transfer a firearm to a private seller with no background check, no anything. The only stipulation is you as the seller can't have knowledge, or rather, to the best of your knowledge, this person that you're selling this firearm to can legally own it. That's the only stipulation in regards to selling a firearm privately. But with that being said, there still are a lot of people. I bought a lot of guns this way. There still are a lot of people that won't sell a gun privately to somebody unless you show them your concealed carry. And a lot of the times they want to meet you at a gun store, and the gun store can process the transfer and do the background check for them. So even, you know, for instance, like Florida is a perfect example. We still have these laws and people still want to take these extra precautions to kind of alleviate any liability on their end.
Now,
So
is that where the gun law myth comes from? Because it's a private to private sale?
yeah, but it's not like,
Yeah, I mean,
did I say gun law? I meant the gun show myth.
yeah,
Right. And yeah, it is, in a way, because, but the law states that, you can't sell to someone who's less than 18. There's
So it's the same gun laws that the gun stores have to follow anyway.
yeah, even private to private sale, you
Yeah.
can't sell to someone who's less than 18.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if you do, then you're liable.
Right,
for-
I missed that. In
Yeah, like I've sold one gun private to private, and the guy, showed me his concealed carry. He showed me he was a private investigator.
yeah, that
and I was
also,
like,
and
all right.
they have to be a in-state resident, if I'm not mistaken. You
Right.
can't sell out-of-state
So
residents.
there's a
Yes.
Florida ID.
Yep.
Yes. But again, there's no like law that states like I have to see his ID. Like to the best of my knowledge, he lives in Florida. So that's kind of like
So most of the stuff that people do, the extra stuff, is just to like protect them.
Right.
And the situation that this gun shows up in a murder case,
yeah.
and they
Right.
want to be like, you know what I'm saying? They want to have their own back kind of
Right.
covered there.
Yep. But even still, like, a lot of people think when you go and buy a firearm and you do the background check and you have the firearm transferred to you, the gun's not registered to you at that point. You, as a private citizen and the private owner of that firearm, you, if you so choose, if you want that firearm registered to you, you have to go on your own and register that firearm to you.
So
The gun isn't registered to you once you buy it.
So what is the point of registering a gun?
It's a good question.
I mean, can you carry a gun without it being registered?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess people register firearms to them for that specific reason. If it gets stolen, things
okay.
like that, yeah.
Or
Otherwise,
if it's a federally controlled firearm, like a short-barreled rifle or something like that.
yeah, suppressors,
you
fully
have to
automatic
register
rifles.
it, and you have to pay the tax fee to be able to have that,
Yeah.
Okay.
which is $200.
Yeah, there's, we could go down that path if we want. That'll be a whole nother hour discussion talking about how stupid the NFA laws are surrounding restricted guns like short-barreled rifles, fully
And
automatic rifles,
It's worth
suppressors.
mentioning, just since we're talking about the NFA, it was enacted in 1936, and the tax, the $200 tax, that's remained the same since 1936. So in 1936, that was actually a very prohibitive tax.
Yeah, it was,
because
like,
most people couldn't afford
unobtainable.
that.
Oh
Right.
yeah, I mean that's a lot of money in
But
1936.
That was the
Today-
idea behind it.
Yeah, today most people can afford that, so it's not as big of a deal. But there's been a lot of efforts to try and raise the price of that tax, but that's a pretty tough sell in the U.S., even though it somehow happened in 1936. But yeah, I think that was FDR was president. Probably.
Yeah.
The first wheels.
Yeah. Hell on wheels.
Abbott's coming in next.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
Nice.
some of those, it makes no sense that the firearm that you're going to put the suppressor on is less regulated than the suppressor you're putting on it.
Oh, right. Yeah.
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 Some of those laws are just so ridiculous.
And that's actually another thing that's been brought up in state governments recently is it's called Hearing Protection Act, because suppressors, are really useful in hunting scenarios, because first of all, a lot of hunting places are kind of close to some areas where there might be houses and stuff, especially if you're hunting like for hogs and things like that. You're kind of like in a farmland area, and there's houses around. So it's kind of a courtesy thing on the one hand. The other thing is for training purposes. You can, if you're using a suppressor, you can you don't have to use hearing protection because that's the whole point of the suppressor. It makes it hearing safe.
Yeah. With that being said, though, most suppressors still aren't hearing safe. Like there's exceptions to all rules, but most suppressors on most calibers over basically your average pistol caliber, like I said, some exceptions with 223, it's still not hearing safe. It's still loud as fuck. It'll still hurt your ears.
Yeah. It's
extended.
It's quiet.
Use.
Yeah, it's quiet enough that like single shots aren't gonna damage your hearing, but if you're doing successive like full auto shots, you're still gonna want to hear or wear hearing protection. Because but yeah, I mean for us, when we're training at my house doing shooting drills in my backyard, it's a courtesy for my neighbors and stuff, just like using a suppressor because I'm not blasting their freaking eardrums in their house. But
Chris,
Nick's over there just.
I am, yeah.
Chris, I'm glad you're not my neighbor.
Chris's closest neighbor is like far, far away.
He's at least like 500 yards away.
Yeah. Shit.
Well, very good, guys. I don't know. I think
know.
that was pretty informative for me. So hopefully everybody else got something out of that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, we could. I
Yeah,
mean,
we
we
could
could
go
like,
all day.
Yeah, we could really get into this, but I don't know.
I think that was pretty good just for a general overview. It started with Nikki Fried trying to make
Free these nuts.
Nuts.
These nuts.
Oh my god.
trying to make it so
I'm disturbed by how good you are at that.
These nuts. Got him.
these local municipalities to be more strict with gun rights. I think hopefully that does not happen. That's what I want, but I also don't want a law on the books to be preemptive, so it stops local governments from having more autonomy. I guess not the best because based on what you guys said, it's only worth the carrying rights. But it seems like a step in the right way is concealed carry or constitutional carry.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully, Florida gets on that.
I guess I'll bring up when we were on the drive over here. I had a theory that I think is.
Oh yeah, I meant to
maybe
bring
correct.
this up earlier.
I think it's
Go ahead.
maybe correct. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a good one.
But so we were wondering, why in the world did they choose the agricultural department to run the concealed carry permits? Presumably the agricultural department was a pretty non-political office before the concealed carry was in their jurisdiction, and I'm thinking at the time they were probably saying, well, the agricultural commissioner is probably going to be a Republican most of the time. So let's just put the concealed carry under their care so that we don't have to worry about it being, eliminated or whatever. And then, this is what happens when you play politics and then the opposition party takes control and then there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
So that sounds pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. No idea if that's true or not.
Yeah, it sounds
that's
pretty
my
accurate.
theory.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's either that or they just took a dart and threw it at
Yeah, they were like, agricultural department has nothing to do. Let's just give them something.
Doesn't she check the
All the
pumps every
orange
now and
trees
then?
are dying. That's
Yeah.
So closing statements. We'll wrap this up. This will be a relatively short episode.
Well, speaking of things dying, like you just mentioned, so Tampa Bay is having a pretty gnarly fish kill right now.
Welcome
Oh,
back
yeah.
to Cameron's Fishing Podcast. Thank you.
No, but I mean that's definitely something in the news. Guys
Definitely
wanna
worth
look into
bringing
that.
Yeah.
They're having a real bad
So-
red tide.
Yeah.
over
I
there.
see
So
the
in
pictures, man.
April-
Holy hell.
Yeah.
in April, wasn't there like a couple 100 million gallons of
Yeah.
the
waste.
phosphate. Yeah.
Yeah. The phosphate.
What was the name of that
reserve.
place?
Shit. I'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up because
Yeah,
I can't
look
think
it
of the
up.
name of it.
Piper's Pilly Peppers, I think is what
Or
it's called.
something similar to that.
Peter
yeah.
Piper's-
Piper.
Yeah,
Pussy
something like that.
peppers.
Anyway, so yeah, that obviously poured a bunch of phosphate into the lagoon in
Yeah, now,
Tampa Bay.
Recently, past couple weeks,
Yeah.
fish have just been
again,
floating into
yeah.
the
Piney Point.
islands
what?
of dead
Piney
fish.
Point.
Piney Point, yeah.
Piney
Yeah.
Point.
So that
Sounds like
was
such a clean, beautiful.
Yeah, but
company.
didn't they say that was like apparently like they handled that before it got out of hand? Well,
yeah, but I mean, a
yeah,
lot
that's
of
what
that
they
got
said,
dumped into
right.
the river, though.
Yeah.
Still, into the
Right,
Tampa
and this
Bay.
was in.
So I mean, they are
April,
yeah,
so
April
they're
13th.
experiencing red tide over there right
Yeah.
now, and I think the kind of argument was that the algae blooms that were already existing because of the phosphate dumps, kind of exacerbated the red tide and just made it even worse than it
so it's
would have been.
It was, because it's tricky with that because red tide is like a naturally occurring like thing, right? But when the argument is like when you start to pour like phosphates and extra nutrients into the Tampa Bay or whatever lagoon or whatever, then when the red it like sort of
Well, yeah,
makes
phosphates and nitrogen
Like
are
feeds
like
off of
or
it.
phosphorus actually, and nitrogen are super beneficial to algae and aquatic
Exactly.
ecosystems. So
exactly. So yeah, but I don't know. Just mention that,
Yeah.
because that's a pretty big deal right now. What's happening over there? A lot of fish being killed, man.
A lot of really important fish. I
yeah,
mean,
like snook and redfish and
Tarpon.
like tarpon. Some like really
Yeah, I mean, if dolphins
protected.
die, how do we?
Yeah,
But when you start killing fish,
What
like
are you, Chinese?
yeah,
Yeah, but I don't know. I just want to
Fuck
mention
you,
that.
Darfine?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, if I was going to look at this like more intensely, my thing would be because I feel like in the past maybe 12 years, it's been more in the mainstream to like bring up when these red tides happen and try to or appropriately link it to a dumping of minerals. But what about the last like 50 or 60 years? Has that not been a thing? Like, have companies not been dumping into the Tampa Bay or into the
I'm
lagoon?
sure. Yeah,
But then why? I guess my thought process would be: has it been a issue in the past, or is it more recent?
I think people are just more savvy to it now.
Yeah, maybe more aware of
Yeah,
stuff.
maybe. I mean, that's
'Cause-
if I care to look into it, that's what I would want to start looking into.
But you don't care because you hate fish.
You hear
Yeah, I
fish.
mean, it doesn't
Wildlife.
affect me.
And
Because
nature.
I know Piney Point, they they dumped a couple 100 million gallons.
Yeah.
But in the past, they've dumped like billions of gallons.
Right.
Yeah, so they've done more in the past.
Yeah,
I
so
know.
I mean that would be interesting to look into because I mean obviously there are more outlets like I don't know 10 15 years ago would you log on to Instagram and see like all the fish kills?
Well,
you know?
no, because Instagram didn't exist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's
that's
my
true.
point. So
Yeah.
now we're seeing more of the stuff,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
that's the same with a lot of
Right.
of social,
Right.
well, social and
yeah.
you know,
So the only fish kills and stuff that you would
environmental
really
issues.
know about is the stuff that's close to you.
yeah.
In your watershed.
no,
you know?
something else that I think is worth bringing up, just because we covered it in past episodes, and I know we've all talked about it. Over
Murdering
the week.
manatees?
Well, you're seeing a lot of those reports. We were a little ahead of the curve on that. We're seeing,
yeah, just a little bit.
yeah, we're not to pat ourselves on the dick, but you're seeing a lot of reports about manatees really not doing so hot. Mm-hmm. But we're also, and I know you brought this up, and then I actually read an article today about it. A lot of Indian River County residents opposing dump trucks full of sand traveling through their neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
It's just kind of funny how they fight for these things, and then they have a problem with how it gets done.
There were some beach replenishment projects that, I mean, there's county sand coming in to replenish their beaches,
beach, and they have a problem
and they
with
don't
it.
let them come through.
Yeah.
Yeah. What episode did we talk about that? 4?
Five?
5? Yeah.
Five?
We
Yeah.
talked about beach restoration.
Yeah, I can
Right.
tell
And-
you right
but
now.
it's just fun. It's just interesting that that this is sort of happening because these people are like they have such a strange view
Yeah,
of like
5.
the world. They
Yep.
just want to be like
they want shit
in-
done, but they don't want to see it happen.
No,
Yeah, they don't
no.
want
You know?
any inconvenience
No.
whatsoever.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Most
and
of
they
them,
just want to like live in their house and like
most of them are probably like just do it in like August and end of July when I'm not here.
Right. Yeah, it's like the
I want it done in 4 months.
the
Right.
big project that's happening on A1A right now, the roadway project. It was kind of like opposed by a lot of people on the island for a while because they just don't want the inconvenience of the construction. So
Yeah, there's something to be said when you're like have a ton of money and you don't work every day, and you wake up and do exactly what you feel like doing. When inconvenience comes in, it's like
A real pain in the ass.
yeah, it's like wait a second, I'm not gonna be able to do exactly what I want.
they're like, could you wait till after I die?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not judging those people, but
And on that note,
Yeah. I actually wanted to jump back. What episode did we talk about critical race theory? Was that episode 4 or 3?
Oh, good question.
That was a while ago.
that was a little bit ago.
Anyway, I had mentioned a study, and I actually confused. Well, not confused. I like merged two studies. So I just wanted to clarify. So the NIH funded a study at the University of Sheffield in the UK with help from the University of Delaware, where they observed babies' biases based on race. They sat babies down and put side-by-side pictures up with faces of different ethnicity, and analyzed the time each infant fixated on the face over the other. They found that babies as young as 3 months old preferred their own race over a differing race. The only problem with the study was they used only Caucasian babies, which doesn't allow for the possibility that maybe these babies just preferred what was more familiar to them. Had they done the study with black babies, I'm sure they would have seen the same result. And then the other study, I said I confused two studies. Robin Bernstein, a professor of African and African American studies and women, gender, and sexuality, Bernstein said that the tests were flawed in that it didn't account for the portrayal of black dolls in America. This is the classic
Psych 101 kind of.
Yep. It didn't account for the portrayal of black dolls in American theater and media that dates back to the Civil War era. Bernstein studied the history of black dolls and found that they were often featured in theatrical scenes of servitude and comic violence. Black bodies, often the subject of this violence, were portrayed as unfeeling to pain. These representations sent the message to children that they should play with white and black dolls very differently, Bernstein said. Thus, Bernstein said, the choices made by the subject of the Clark doll tests was not necessarily an indication of black self-hatred. Instead, it was a cultural choice between two different toys. One that was to be loved and one that was to be physically harassed, as exemplified in performances and popular media. So, yeah, I just wanted to clarify those 2 points because what I said was not entirely accurate, believe it or not. Oh.
So that's just a good point to say, hey, check out some of our episodes, right? No, we have a few episodes. If you just started listening, this is your first episode, go back, take a gander at the old episodes. They're fun, and obviously cover some good stuff. But anyways, we appreciate you guys coming out and joining us today.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a good time.
Yeah. Anyone else have some closing remarks before I wrap this up for us?
the Old Forester's is very tasty.
It's a good whiskey if you guys are looking for. That's a good if you're an alcoholic, everyday whiskey, but that's a good casual sipping whiskey. What was it, like a $40 bottle?
No, a little more, but
A little more?
Yeah, this is a single barrel.
yeah.
Single barrel.
Single barrel.
Single barrel.
That's like a good get home after work, beat your wife for a little bit, and then just
Yeah. Well, probably have a glass or two, and then be your wife, and then have another glass or two.
Oh my god.
yeah.
Lord help us.
Well,
Cool
Don't
down.
worry, guys. We're an entertainment podcast. It's all jokes.
none
Nobody's
of
being
these
away.
are jokes. We're serious about everything. Well, that was it.
All right, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you. Just a couple exciting announcements. We have 2 plants in the center of our table that now has oh, you dick. That now we have a black tablecloth. We have 2 plants. You know, the studio's really taking off.
They're all very dangerous plants too. We have like a spiky aloe, and we have a cactus.
Things you shouldn't put around guys drinking whiskey.
So we're all reaching for the whiskey bottle around
Stabbing
the cactus.
ourselves, yeah.
It's great.
Well, anyway, that
Don't forget to share.
share, like, comment. I guess you can't subscribe.
Yeah, hey, repost. right?
Yeah, repost our shit,
Yeah,
mother freakers.
why are you not reposting things?
Yeah, send shit out to people. Tell people to listen to us because we're fucking gangsters.
Harass them.
You know,
Yeah.
you know your grandma who
Yeah.
watches that mainstream media. She's getting all the information from that.
Yeah,
Say, hey, listen to these guys.
yeah.
They're
Educate
reasonable.
grandma.
They're understandable.
Yeah.
Red pill grandma.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna mute these jokers so I can finish what the hell I'm trying to say here. Yeah. So thanks for joining us for episode 8. We can't hear you, Bucky. So shut up. Just a little announcement. We are set up to start doing live calls, which is kind of exciting because we're gonna try and do some things where we get some local politicians to phone in. You know, whether it be a little 5-minute, 10-minute interview or what have you. We're gonna, hopefully start doing some exciting things. We're looking into some merchandising stuff, so hopefully get maybe some stickers, some shirts, or, whatever. We're gonna start looking into doing some local things, whether it be charities or, I don't know. We're just looking into some things to, actually make a difference. So, share our stuff, like our stuff. It means the world to us. So thank you guys.